Hello, and welcome to Easy Piecy Quilts. I'm Julia Tiedemann, and today we're going to be talking about perfect pieces. This quilt pattern is very special to me because when I was designing it, I was really trying to represent all the little pieces of someone's life, all the memories, all the relationships, all the people we love are all the little pieces that are put together to make and form our lives. And my focus, being a Christian, is on the cross. And I wanted to represent that, the love of Christ and the love we have for each other woven in that life as well. So I hope you will join me and enjoy the construction and the tutorial of perfect pieces. Here is my fabric for perfect pieces. I am going to be using layer cake squares, which are 10 inches by 10 inches. And these are the easiest way to not only purchase fabric for this quilt, because it comes in 42, typically there are 42 layer cakes in a pack, but the yardages in the back also give how many layer cakes you need based on a 42 pack layer cake. And then there's also cutting instructions on page 1 that will indicate how many layer cake pieces that you need for each size quilt. So here we have the layer cakes kind of separated out. These are the layer cakes that I want to make my crosses with. These are the layer cakes that I want to make my hearts with. And these are the layer cakes that I want to make all my little squares that are in this quilt with. So I've separated those out, and let's go ahead and cut. Okay, so we have all of our pieces cut out for the heart block. This block requires your pieces that you cut out for your pink and your red for your heart. We're going to place background fabric squares over the top of each one of our heart pieces. These are this is actually half a heart and half a heart. When we sew it together, you'll see that it will make a heart. Now, these pieces, what we're going to do is we're going to sew a diagonal seam across the background square here and a seam here, the same up here and the same down here. And that will make the top of our heart. Okay, so now we have our squares. They have been sewn from corner to corner. The seam allowance has been trimmed to 1/4 of an inch, and I have pressed that seam open, and we have the top of our heart completed. Now we are going to add this piece here, and we are going to sew from this corner to this corner and this corner down to this corner to create our completed heart. All right, so here is our half heart. Here is our heart with the seam allowances trimmed. All I have to do is press these all out, and we will sew this side of the heart to this side of the heart with a seam right here after we press these out, and I'll be back after that. Okay, we've got our heart done. We've got both halves put together. Now we are going to add this piece, a little frame around the heart. So that is going to go there. That will go there. And then once we get done attaching these two pieces, these outer pieces will be attached. Okay, there we have our heart. The borders have softened the points at the top of the heart. So it's a little bit more of a rounded shape, which I like. And then the other component of this block, we are going to put several background pieces, and then the rest are our little patchwork squares. So what I have done is I have gone ahead and chain pieced 12 pairs of background squares together. I just ran them through the machine. They're all still hooked together. So we are going to cut those apart and press them open, and I'll show you what to do with them after that. So here are all of our squares put together in pairs, and I pressed the seam to one side. So with half of these, well, actually with 4 of the pairs, we are going to pair them with a background piece. It doesn't really matter what goes where. So we'll take those, and those are all paired to go with the background piece. The remaining pairs are going to be made into 4 patches. So if you press to one side, this seam is going this direction, and this seam is going this direction. So when you put them together to sew along this side, you can see that the seams will nest nicely. So you will be able to make, with the remaining pairs, you will be able to make 4 patches. So by chain piecing these, you can see that it was really easy to make our pairs, make the pairs, and the background pieces connected, and that gives us that component of the block. And then we add our 4 patches to the corners, and we have, you can kind of rearrange it as you like your colors to be a little bit more balanced. And then what we now have is the major components of the block are all there. What we'll do is we will connect this piece to this piece and this piece to this piece and make a horizontal row. We'll connect these 3 pieces in a horizontal row. We'll connect these 3 pieces in a horizontal row, and then we will connect our horizontal rows to one another, and the block will be complete. Here is our cross block, and this block has 4 patchwork squares on each corner, 1 on each corner, 4 total, and the cross is in the center. The rest of the components of this block are background pieces of fabric. So this block is also pretty easy to chain piece. You can take this section out of the quilt, the center of the cross, and do all of these blocks, chain piecing those, and then you can chain piece the side of the cross together and so on out with your pieces. And then you will have basically all your vertical rows of this block will be complete, and then you can put the vertical rows together to complete the block. Here are our two blocks. We've got the cross block and we've got the heart block. And once you know how to make these two blocks, the quilt is essentially just putting these blocks together. There is one outer border that is very well explained in the quilt, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. But everything else, from which way to press your seams so that everything nests, to how many pieces of each fabric, how many layer cakes you need, everything is in the pattern, and I will link the pattern as well as several of the items that I've used here today in the description box below. I thought I would take a moment to take the blocks that we just constructed and show you how they fit into the quilt top. Here is our cross block that we made, and it fits right here. And our heart block goes right next to it on either side. And the pattern will tell you exactly how many pieces you need, how many blocks you need for each size. It's very detailed. I did mention that there is a border on this quilt. I didn't like how the quilt just ended. I didn't think it framed the crosses quite as well, or the heart blocks. So there is a small border that goes all the way around the quilt top that is also explained in a section of the pattern. But all in all, this quilt means so much. I can tell you that this quilt has been life-changing for me. I have gotten so much feedback from you who people have made this quilt for, why they have made this quilt, the relationships that they have built by giving this quilt to someone. It is truly a blessing. And I hope that you can find your special meaning in this quilt, Perfect Pieces.